Why is it that a woman can leave a man who treats her perfectly on paper to choose someone who seems completely wrong for her? In the deep study of human relationship psychology, we observe a very heavy behavioral trend that many people find difficult to accept. Human attraction does not run on a logical checklist of good deeds, financial security, or nice behavior. Many men believe that if they work hard, avoid arguments, and give a woman everything she asks for, they are guaranteed to keep her loyalty forever. However, behavioral data suggests that when a relationship begins to break down, the choice to choose someone else is driven by subconscious emotional triggers rather than rational thought. When a partner chooses a new person over an existing one, it is often because the new person satisfies a specific psychological lack or emotional desire that has been missing in the home for a very long time. Accepting these dark truths is not about bitter anger or blaming anyone. It is about learning how human nature actually works under the surface so you can protect your own emotional stability. Today, we are going to look closely at the hidden reasons behind these difficult relationship choices. We will look at the first few behavioral truths of this dynamic, why predictability can sometimes lower attraction, and how a loss of personal identity makes a man highly vulnerable to third-party comparison. Most people see what happened. Few stop to understand why it happened. If you're here to think deeper, question assumptions, and see beyond the surface, you're in the right place. Subscribe and join the conversation, because better understanding leads to better decisions. The first dark truth of this dynamic is the concept of the contrast effect. In many relationships that are losing their spark, a husband or boyfriend becomes completely comfortable and predictable. He stops challenging himself, stops pursuing new goals, and allows his daily life to turn into a repetitive routine. While stability is a beautiful thing, total predictability can accidentally remove the excitement from a partnership. When an outside man enters the picture, he does not have the baggage of daily chores, money stress, or family arguments. To an emotionally detached partner, this new person represents an escape from reality. Behavioral observations indicate that she does not necessarily choose him because he is a better person in total. She chooses him because he is different from what she experiences every single day. The new person provides a sharp contrast to the boredom at home, making his small gestures look incredibly exciting simply because they are fresh. The second dark truth involves a psychological pattern called the certainty trap. When a man is completely devoted, he often makes it obvious that he will never leave, no matter how badly he is treated. He accepts poor behavior, tolerates constant disrespect, and forgives major betrayals instantly because he is terrified of being alone. Psychological trends suggest that when a person feels 100% certain that their partner will never walk away, they subconsciously begin to lose respect for that partner. Human nature is wired to value things that require effort to keep. When another man comes along who displays high self-respect, sets firm boundaries, and does not beg for approval, his distant attitude looks incredibly strong and attractive by comparison. She chooses him because his personality has an element of mystery and strength that has completely disappeared from her current relationship. Let us look at a realistic story involving a man named Thomas to see how these behavioral tendencies look in real life. Thomas was a very reliable accountant who was married to a woman named Megan. Thomas loved Megan deeply and decided that the best way to prove his love was to become completely passive and agreeable. If Megan wanted to change their weekend plans at the last second, Thomas would smile and say it was fine. If Megan ignored his text messages for hours, Thomas would send 3 more messages asking if he did something wrong. Thomas completely stopped going out with his own friends and gave up his passion for playing the guitar just to be available for Megan all the time. Over 2 years, this behavior caused a very negative outcome. Megan began to see Thomas as a personal assistant rather than a romantic partner. She met a gym coach named Simon who was very focused on his own career, had a busy schedule, and did not hesitate to politely disagree with her opinions. Megan found herself thinking about Simon constantly and eventually ended her relationship with Thomas to be with him. Thomas made the classic mistake of thinking that total submission equals total love. By throwing away his own hobbies, displaying intense insecurity, and removing all boundaries, he accidentally lowered his value and caused his partner to search for strength in someone else. Have you ever seen a situation where a man did everything right on paper, but his total lack of personal identity caused the relationship to fall apart anyway? I invite you to reflect on this story and share your view in the comments section below. When we break down Thomas's experience from a psychological perspective, we find the third dark truth, which is the validation shift. When a relationship is healthy, partners give each other emotional support naturally. But when a couple becomes distant, a partner might look for validation from an outside source to fix their dropping self-esteem. If an outside man starts paying attention to her, complimenting her style, and listening to her thoughts, her brain experiences a massive rush of dopamine. She subconsciously links this happy feeling to the new man, believing that he understands her soul better than her current partner does. Behavioral science shows that this is an illusion created by the early stages of infatuation. But to an emotionally hungry person, it feels like true love. She chooses him over you because her brain is chasing the quick high of new validation, leaving the deep history of your shared relationship behind. When you understand that human attraction is driven by emotional states rather than logical arguments, you stop trying to convince a detached person of your value. You realize that a man's true strength lies in his ability to remain grounded in his own worth, regardless of another person's validation. Now, we must examine the remaining dark truths that explain why these difficult relationship choices happen and how you can use this awareness to protect your own mental clarity. We will look at how emotional investment shapes loyalty, why a lack of direct challenge kills attraction, and how a quiet commitment to your own growth alters how people treat you. The fourth dark truth of this dynamic centers on a behavioral pattern known as the investment trap. In relationship psychology, we observe that people naturally protect the things they have to work hard to maintain. When a husband handles every single chore, manages all the stress, and requires zero emotional effort from his partner, the partner's subconscious investment in the relationship drops to a dangerous level. Because she did not have to work to keep you, her mind treats the relationship as a low-value asset that is easy to discard. When she meets another man who demands her time, her energy, and her attention, her subconscious mind tells her that this new person must be incredibly valuable because he requires so much effort. She chooses him over you because her brain values the person she has to actively chase and please, rather than the person who is always waiting patiently at home. If you're still locked in, you're seeing what most people miss. This channel is for thinkers, not reactors. Subscribe if that resonates. Share your perspective below. Now, let's get into the part most people overlook. The fifth and final dark truth is the overprotection collapse. When a man senses that his partner is pulling away, his natural instinct is often to become overly protective, highly suspicious, and intensely controlling. He starts checking her phone logs, asking for updates on her location, and trying to block her from interacting with the outside world. Behavioral observations indicate that this reaction always accelerates the breakdown of the relationship. To an emotionally detached partner, your tight control feels like a prison sentence, while the outside man represents total freedom and peace. She does not necessarily choose him because he has a superior character. She chooses him because he is not trying to trap her. By acting out of pure panic and fear of loss, a husband accidentally pushes his partner directly into the arms of the third party, making the outside connection look like an act of emotional rescue. Let us look at a realistic story of positive growth involving a man named Julian to see how these psychological patterns look when they are managed with absolute self-respect. Julian was a dedicated business owner who was married to a woman named Clara. After 4 years of marriage, Julian noticed that Clara was becoming emotionally cold, hiding her phone screen, and frequently mentioning a new male colleague named Brandon at her office. Julian felt a sharp sting of worry, but instead of screaming, demanding to read her text messages, or begging for her attention, Julian chose to apply the rule of the indifferent boundary. He sat down with Clara and said in a very calm, low, unshakable voice, "I have noticed that your focus has shifted outside of our home. I value this marriage, but I have too much respect for myself to compete with another man for your attention. If your heart is no longer here, you are completely free to leave." After saying those words, Julian did not argue or cry. He simply stood up, went to the gym, and continued focusing heavily on expanding his business and maintaining his health. Clara, who expected Julian to become angry or insecure, was completely stunned by his quiet authority. She looked at Julian's independence and suddenly realized that she was about to lose a high-value man who was completely capable of surviving without her. The illusion of the new colleague vanished instantly, and Clara began putting all her emotional energy back into repairing her relationship with Julian. By refusing to play emotional games or beg for love, Julian protected his dignity, proved his strength, and naturally restored the respect inside his marriage. How do you feel about the idea that being completely willing to walk away actually makes you far more attractive than begging for someone to stay? Think about your own observations of relationship power dynamics, and write your thoughts in the comments section below. When you master the ability to see these psychological behaviors clearly, you understand that you never need to force someone to choose you. Your only assignment is to build a life of purpose, discipline, and unshakable standards. When a man maintains his personal value, sets clear boundaries, and refuses to let fear control his actions, he becomes completely immune to the chaos of third-party comparisons. If a person chooses to leave your life for a shallow illusion, it is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It is simply a sign that they were no longer aligned with the standard of excellence you are building for your future. If you're still here, you've already done something most people don't. You didn't settle for the headline. You stayed for the deeper layer. In a world that rewards quick reactions, taking the time to understand is becoming a rare skill. That's what this channel is about. Not taking sides, not chasing outrage, but looking beneath the surface to understand the patterns that shape people, relationships, and decisions. If you value conversations that make you think long after the video ends, subscribe and stay connected. And if something in today's discussion stood out to you, share it in the comments. Some of the best insights come from seeing how different people interpret the same idea. Keep questioning, keep learning, keep seeing beyond the obvious. I'll see you in the next one.